Lightning storms. Scary, right? A storm in which electrical discharges release energy and hit the ground, or whatever is in their way. According to the Met Office, you should stay away from metal objects and take various safety measures if you find yourself exposed in such an event. While it's not very likely that you'll be struck, and if you are, you have a 90% survival rate according to the CDC, it just doesn't seem like a hell of a time, does it? Well, that means that someone has to make a horror movie about it, right? Insert Mega Lightning. I found out about this film when a peer of mine named Zack Attack Reviews sent me a message recommending it to me. And with an IMDb score of 2.3 at the time of this video being made, you all know I had to check it out. Zack posts similar content to me, such as movie reviews, so if any of that kind of stuff interests you, check him out. Anyways, without further ado, on with the review.
Polos is life, 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 sleep all night and then Polos is life.
The movie begins when these nature nerds named Linda and Greg walk around a wooded area, taking pictures and stuff because there's apparently going to be a massive natural disaster in this area soon. Considering the title, this opening isn't too shocking, but something else is.
If what they're saying on the news is correct, this could be the biggest natural disaster in history in a matter of days.
They're British. You know, nice surprise. A stock effect lightning bolt then hits a tree and then chases them down a path, where Linda gets trapped in her car and the ground gives way, while Greg gets struck by lightning. After a title card that I could make in Kdenlive, we see a woman called Tammy waiting by her car that has broken down. She gets kidnapped by this creepy guy, Johan, who just stands there and gives a poetic line after chloroforming her.
The air breathes upon us here most sweetly.
Pretty cheesy if you ask me. This couple, Meg and Sean, argue a little bit after coming back from a date, and Meg goes inside after they sort of resolve the issue in that way where neither of you want to argue but you're saving the discussion for a later point, because this moment in time is not appropriate. The house is a little shaky when Meg goes inside, spooky foreshadowing, and her dad tells her that there are more lightning strikes on the way. Apparently the lightning is tuned to the human body. We're less than 10 minutes in, and we've gotten quite a few characters in different scenarios thrown at us. It's a little hard to keep track of. We cut back to Tammy, who is tied up, and there is a flashing effect that is supposed to replicate the lighting caused by stormy weather outside. It's obviously not natural or well edited in, because there should be more contrast between the shadows and highlights when the lightning strikes. Meg's parents go away on a trip, so she and her sister Corinne hold a house party. Cliché much? This is a trope that's used in silly horror movies to get a bunch of young people intoxicated so that mayhem may ensue within the same vicinity. Usually it's some kind of masked killer, but the titular villain of this movie is stormy weather. The girl's friend Sally and her boyfriend Donald get caught in the storm on the way to the party, and he says he has to tell her something immediately before he gets blasted by a lightning bolt. Meanwhile, while they're hanging out in a hot tub, the kids discuss how they're worried about their friends. Sean's friend Paulie makes an ironic joke about how Sally and Donald have probably been struck by lightning, not knowing that they have, which made me chuckle, but he actually laughs when the lightning gets nearer while Meg is in the house, which just makes him seem like a dickhead. Meg and Corinne's parents get stuck in the storm on the way to their resort, and they just escape their car being hit. Their acting isn't the most convincing. As they try to escape through the woods, the dad just sits to take a break, I guess. A tree is struck by lightning and falls on him, which of course looks rather silly. I don't get it. I know that he's old, but this is not the time to be waiting around, and they were trying to get to a nearby cottage. The part of the tree that falls also doesn't look big enough to kill him, although that might just be the quality of the effect. The injuries on the body shot just look like he put some face paint on as well. It's just very contrived and a lousy kill. After having a phone call with her mum, Meg and Sean plan to go to the cottage to rescue her, but Meg's mum doesn't tell her that her dad has died. A lightning strike hits the hot tub while Paulie is inside, but he was a dick anyway. Speaking of meatbag characters that only exist to increase the death count, Sally shows up as soon as Corin, Meg and Sean are going to leave the premises, and she is immediately killed by a piece of falling debris. She and Donald were only in the movie to die. We barely spend any time with them on screen. The mum actually ended up in the cottage that Tammy is being kept in, which I kind of saw coming. These two storylines would have had to merge at some point. Unfortunately for both of them though, Johan is still in the house and is about to kill her, but is distracted by a thunderbolt, giving the mum some time to escape and hide. Kinda silly, right? There's been a storm all night and it's not like he's a dog. While Johan, is looking for the mum, Tammy escapes into the nearby woods. He hunts her down for a while, but while he's waxing poetic about the ongoing weather, she gets struck by lightning. The three kids stop driving on their way to rescue the mum, and they argue and get upset about Paulie's death. I get why they would be upset about it, obviously, but are we, the audience, supposed to feel bad? As I said, the guy was kind of a dick, and again, we didn't spend that much time with him. The acting is pretty hollow and melodramatic too. On the topic of hollow acting, they find the dad's body in the woods, which means that they can't be too far away from the mum if you look on the bright side of things, but of course they don't know that. While trying to comfort Meg, a lightning bolt hits, so Sean pushes her out of the way. Sean is hit and Meg is knocked unconscious.
Sean! Where are you?
I seriously don't know what Corin is talking about here. I know it's dark, but it's not that dark, and given that she finds them one scene later, you can assume that the pair were like a meter away. It's not like they ran for miles in their anguish. The sisters then lie on the floor crying, and I get that they've just been through a lot, but you're in the middle of an open field during a lightning storm where several people you know personally have already died. The mum has now taken place of Tammy, and Corin and Meg get to the cottage. I see what they tried to do here. This is actually a smart idea for a story. Their mum is literally upstairs, but she can't alert them, so they have no idea. Good idea, movie. You pleasantly surprised me. Obviously, they do find their mother, but when Corin goes downstairs, she notices that Johan has returned home. They decide to go all Charlie's Angels on his ass, and the mum arms herself with a mallet. Quite the weapon, I haven't seen them used enough in movies. This doesn't work out though, as Johan manages to overpower the mum. He fights with the remaining two and ends up chasing Meg into the woods. Corin and her mum wake up, and Corin goes to rescue Meg after she finds a bloody sword. Apparently, we're back to Highlander again. Okay, I said that as a joke, but maybe I was onto something with that comment. As the lightning rages and causes destruction around them, our heroes escape and sit outside the house. Why? You're out in the open? Get to safety of some kind and stay away from trees. We get a time skip to 3 months later, and Meg and her mum just so happen to be discussing the events of the movie. We then get this bit of exposition to further explain the storm.
Like most storms, the striking points are random, but during flurries of lightning, the energy within the storm begins to hone in to particular striking points.
Before another storm is predicted and the movie ends. I mean, what a silly movie really. While natural disaster movies definitely aren't unpopular, this was certainly a unique premise. I much prefer this to having to watch another tornado or earthquake movie. What kind of name is Mega Lightning anyway? I've heard of the term superstorm or megastorm, but Mega Lightning just sounds mad goofy to me. There are some mild, surface-level themes of environmentalism in this movie from beginning to end. There's the theory about how the lightning bolts are striking mammals and aiming for specific parts of the human body, and Sean says this line while they're in the car.
Mother Nature biting back.
As I said though, it's very shallow and has sort of a Birdemic shock and terror vibe to it.
How dare you!
The character writing isn't the best either overall. I alluded to this multiple times during my commentary section, but I'm getting really sick of characters like Paulie who are just dicks that we barely spend time getting to know, because the audience is supposed to look forward to seeing their kill. I mean, this trope got tired back in the 80s, and it also makes us not care when the other characters get upset. I didn't really like Johan either. He's the typical crazy perverted serial killer. He talks in weird pseudo-artistic monologues that are filled with idioms, as if he is talking to an audience. He apparently believes that there is a thunder god and that he's doing a mission or something, but he also says lines like this.
Why are you doing this?
Because I can.
There are probably exceptions to this, but I don't think someone who is this type of killer would be self-aware enough to make a comment like this. It would make more sense for him to say something like, I have to, or I'm doing my duty. I don't get why the film focuses on him so much too, when the main villain is supposedly the lightning. By the way, neither Johan nor Greg from the beginning are ever named in the movie, so I had to look elsewhere to find out what they were called. On the other hand, I liked the scenes with Meg and Corin having casual conversations. They did seem like silly British sisters having silly conversations. The mum and dad are quite sweet as well, I just wish they had a better run. This movie is also 90 minutes long. It drags out quite a bit and I don't know why it needed to be this long. It could have been 75 minutes and we would have gotten basically the same movie. I saw on Letterboxd that a sequel has been announced, and while it had an open ending, I don't see why this was needed either. Who is paying for these sequels? I'd really like to know. Overall, I didn't find this movie particularly fun or likeable, but it's harmless. It seems to fit this upcoming category of B-movies that want to appeal to so bad it's good fans. At least that's the impression I get. I want to discuss this in more detail in another review that I have planned for the future, but I will say this. Making an ironic movie that takes the piss and is self-aware is great and can be a lot of fun, but when you use cliches, especially ones that annoy audiences, and don't do anything clever like subverting their expectations, it comes across as very artificial. Well, that's all for this video. Be sure to follow me on social media as they are all linked in my description box. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.
The blue and green ones are my favorite kind, but I'll eat the colored ones from time to time. Cause Polos is life, Polos is life, Polos is life.